or visit a Spectrum store today.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. President Donald Trump delivering his first address to a joint session of Congress since returning to power.
The golden age of America has only just begun.
He promised reciprocal tariffs will be imposed for most of the country's trading partners beginning next month. The president also criticized his predecessor, President Joe Biden, with comments on his handling of the border and executive orders on DEI and energy. Trump says his administration is working hard to stabilize egg prices and balance the federal budget. And there was no shortage of drama during the speech, with several Democrats expressing their displeasure of the president's first month and a half in office. Texas Democrat Al Green was even escorted out of the chamber for his outbursts about Medicaid.
I have people who are very fearful. These are poor people, and they have only Medicaid in their lives when it comes to their health care. And I want him to know that his budget calls for deep cuts in Medicaid.
Last week, Speaker Mike Johnson said the president does not intend to touch Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. A weather event filled with blizzards, tornadoes, and thunderstorms is sweeping the country. 55 million Americans are at risk of severe weather. That's your Spectrum News in 90.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your weather on the One's forecast. We are halfway through the week, and we've got some more active weather to talk about across the lower 48. We've got some strong winds and blizzard-like conditions in the Central Plains as temperatures crash down to the 30s and 40s, and across the eastern half of the United States. That is where today's severe weather threat is going to be shifting. We have a level 3 enhanced risk for parts of the Virginias and Carolinas, and we're going to break down the potential threats that we could see coming up in 10 minutes.
I'm Bree Driscoll, and thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. Today is Wednesday, March 5th. President Donald Trump delivering a fiery address to a joint session of Congress last night. He says he's just getting started with an agenda of tariffs, tax reductions, and government cutbacks.
Accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
The president also ridiculed his predecessor, President Joe Biden, and many Democrats in the chamber. His address at times interrupted by protests. Texas Democrat Al Green was escorted out of the chamber for his outbursts about Medicaid. Last week, Speaker Mike Johnson said the president does not intend to touch Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. Washington reporter Angie Gonzalez joins us now from Capitol Hill. Angie.
Yeah, Bree, it was one of the longest speeches from a president for a joint address to Congress. The president went longer than 90 minutes, and he beat out former President Bill Clinton for having one of the longest speeches. A whirlwind 6 weeks into his second term, President Donald Trump touted his work leading the country before a joint session of Congress.
America is back.
From efforts to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to banning transgender athletes in women's sports and his immigration crackdown, Trump also highlighted his efforts to reduce the size of the federal government and thanked his advisor, Elon Musk.
I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps.
Musk's introduction was met with applause and some boos from Democrats, some of whom brought federal workers who've been fired in recent weeks as their guests. The president's speech was also halted temporarily amid shouting from Texas Congressman Al Green, who was eventually removed from the chamber.
The president said he had a mandate, and I was making it clear to the president that he has no mandate to cut Medicaid.
Held signs as President Trump defended sweeping tariffs on imports from Mexico, Canada, and China that went into effect on Tuesday. He further promised reciprocal tariffs on imports from other nations beginning April 2nd.
We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before.
On foreign policy, President Trump defended his decision to pause military aid to Ukraine and read a letter sent by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer.
Michigan's junior senator provided the Democratic response.
After the spectacle that just took place in the Oval Office last week, Reagan must be rolling in his grave. We all want an end to the war in Ukraine, but Reagan understood that true strength required America to combine our military and economic might with moral clarity.
And Angie, what's going to happen now to Representative Green, who interrupted the speech?
Well, we're going to have to see, Bree, because as House Majority Leader Steve Scalise was leaving yesterday, he was asked whether or not they planned on censuring the congressman. They said that they would be looking into that. It's basically a sort of disciplinary measure to make sure that people do not act out in ways like that. Back to you.
Angie Gonzalez reporting for us from Capitol Hill. Thanks, Angie. For analysis now, let's bring in political director Bob Hart. Bob, this was a wide-ranging speech. There was a lot to get to here, but tariffs were a major talking point, and the economy and inflation still big issues for Americans. Let's take a little listen to that.
We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer.
Bob, a lot of this speech was rehashing the executive orders that he has already put out there and in some cases already implemented. We didn't get a lot of new announcements from the speech.
No, I mean, we did get the full-throated defense of tariffs by the president last night. And we also got, I felt like the reset button was at least half hit on Ukraine, with Trump reading some of Zelensky's remarks since their disastrous meeting in the Oval Office. And that's a promising bit of news for Zelensky and for supporters of Ukraine, that it sounded like the president was willing to move on from that awful meeting.
There was a lot of blame put on the Biden administration by Trump. Is it a smart strategy to look in the rearview mirror like that, or would his time have been better spent and better used for explaining his agenda?
Well, a lot of people who've just entered office, or in Trump's case, re-entered office, like to point the finger at the old guy. And that's what we saw last night. I mean, he called Biden the worst president in U.S. history. I think that'd probably be news for people who have followed James Buchanan and Andrew Johnson, but never mind that. The thing that you usually see presidents do is put an olive branch out to the other side. And Trump said, "Oh, you're never going to clap for anything I do, no matter what." It's like, well, you just called Joe Biden the worst president ever. So I agree with you. I don't think that really helps you beyond your base. Your base probably loves it. His base probably thought that was great. But in terms of reaching out to moderates and liberals, it wasn't a smart political move by the president at all.
And there were a lot of theatrics by the Democrats last night. The signs, the interruptions, the protests. Did they get their message across, or was this just to take some of the attention away from Trump?
I mean, I think both. I think they took some of the attention off. Al Green, clearly wanted to get kicked out and did. But it reminds me, going back to like 2009, where you had Joe Wilson, a Republican congressman from South Carolina, who got like national news for just yelling "you lie" to Obama. We've come so far since 2009, where now someone's getting thrown out, wanting to get thrown out, and Democrats walking out. But it shows you where we are. We're a very divided country right now, and we're a very divided Congress right now.
Yeah, you're right to point that out. A lot has changed since then. And finally, after this address, the president usually takes the show on the road. Are we going to see that here?
I would think so. This really felt like a campaign speech. A lot of the themes we heard in the campaign speech, this plays so well to the Trump base that I would not be surprised at all if he does mini versions of this. But the question is, if things go south, or if the stock market continues to go down because of these tariffs, you want to get other people on your side besides your base. And I think that was the biggest shortcoming of that speech is I don't think there was a lot there, especially with the Democrats all but turning their backs on the president last night.
All right, great analysis. Thank you so much, Bob.
Thanks, Bree.
Coming up, deadly and devastating storms leaving a trail of destruction in the southeast. We'll have that story plus your Weather on the Ones forecast coming up.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app.
I really am in the middle of nowhere. Every day is different. Chores, come on, homeschooling, and then I fit in the rug business. I just got a new batch of rugs that I'd love to show you. I have a website, and a lot of what I do is sharing my home life. Mommy's leaving. Reliable, high-speed internet is the foundation of our business. Spectrum was great. They went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and I was taken care of. Shoo! And that's the awesomeness of having Spectrum.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Weather on the Ones forecast. We are halfway through the week, and we have another active weather day across the lower 48 as a pretty strong area of low pressure starts to work its way from the Central Plains, bringing some strong winds and blizzard-like conditions across the upper Midwest. We actually have another snow system that's going to be bringing additional snowfall as we head into the day on Thursday across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. But our severe weather threat is going to be the big talking point today as it shifts to the East Coast. We have an enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms for parts of the Carolinas and into the Virginias, and our temperatures unfortunately going to be all over the place as we head into the next 24 to 48 hours. But as far as rainfall totals go, we did see our fair share of rain with the storm system as it started up yesterday. Some spots picked up 1.5 inches, 2 inches across the upper Midwest and down through portions of Alabama, Mississippi, into Louisiana, 1.5 inches to 2 inches at the very most. And we're not expecting rainfall totals like that, as we are expecting a pretty thin line of strong thunderstorms that's going to work its way into the eastern coast. So we're not going to be seeing 1 inch or 2, but winds are going to be a big concern like they were yesterday. Take a look at the peak wind gusts we had all across the country yesterday. Omaha, Nebraska, 64 miles per hour, 85 mile per hour wind gusts. That is a hurricane force wind gust in the Garden City, Kansas region. Down in Highland Park, Texas, we had some wind gusts over 78 miles per hour, and down through Nashville as well, north of 55 plus miles per hour. That's going to be the theme for us as the storm system shifts to the eastern half of the country. We have wind advisories, high wind warnings in place across the Central Plains as well, which are going to be expiring as we transition into our Thursday when the winds will eventually start to subside. But here is our potent storm system working its way across the central part of this country. We have some heavy snowfall and blizzard-like conditions across the Central Plains, where we have seen not necessarily impressive snowfall totals, about 1 inch to 3 inches in some spots, but most of that snowfall is going to fall across northern Wisconsin and into parts of Minnesota as well. But all eyes are going to be on this line of thunderstorms progressing to the eastern half of the country, and that is where our severe weather risk is for today. And we're going to break down the threats coming up in 10 minutes.
And here's a look at what you need to know. President Trump delivered his congressional address last night. He said he's just getting started with an agenda of tariffs, tax reductions, and government cutbacks, while bashing President Biden and many Democrats in the room. There was no shortage of drama during the speech, with several Democrats expressing their displeasure of the president's first month and a half in office. And a weather event is sweeping through the country, bringing blizzards, tornadoes, and thunderstorms. 2 died in Mississippi because of the storm, and 55 million Americans are still facing risks of severe weather. And that's a look at what you need to know. As Pope Francis continues to recover from pneumonia, the Vatican says he will not be leading its Ash Wednesday service this year. The 88-year-old leader of the Catholic Church has been in the hospital for nearly 3 weeks now. The Pope remains in stable condition with a guarded prognosis, meaning he's not out of danger. An Italian cardinal will preside over Ash Wednesday liturgy today, marking the start of Lent and the weeks leading to Easter. Now, this is the second time Francis has missed Ash Wednesday as Pope. The first was in 2022 due to knee pain. According to the Vatican, the Pope had, quote, rested well overnight. In last night's congressional address, President Trump announced a suspected senior planner of the Kabul suicide bombing has been arrested and will be brought to the U.S. to face charges. In the August 2021 attack, 2 suicide bombers and a gunman attacked crowds of Afghans flocking to Kabul's airport during the chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. The bombing killed 13 Americans and 170 Afghans. Powerful storms killing 2 in Mississippi, tearing the roofs off of an apartment building and a nursing home in a small Oklahoma town. Now more communities across the nation are threatened with wide-ranging weather. Our Jenna Enoch joins us now with the latest. Jenna, what is the aftermath of these storms?
Well, Bree, these dangerous conditions are plummeting the southeast with heavy rainfall on top of powerful winds, hail, and tornadoes. At least 2 people died in Madison County, Mississippi after storms swept through. 1 died from electrocution, another when a tree fell on a car. We are seeing severe wind damage, mostly across parts of Texas, where roofs and buildings have been ripped off or ripped apart. Major damage to a warehouse in North Texas. Downed trees, power lines, and power outages are creating some dangerous conditions for people there. Police are asking people to avoid unnecessary travel. Bree?
And Jenna, how did this weather disrupt Mardi Gras celebrations in New Orleans?
Well, those high winds were really the big concern for the Mardi Gras celebrations. They moved up and shortened the 2 biggest parades to wrap them up before that bad weather moved in. Also in Louisiana, there were at least 2 tornadoes that touched down, at least 5 tornadoes in eastern Oklahoma. More power outages are expected today as a line of storms race across Mississippi and Louisiana, heading for Alabama, producing again those wind gusts of 70 miles per hour. Bree?
Dangerous conditions. Jenny Enoch, thank you very much. Meteorologist Ramel Carpenter joins us now. Ramel, Jenna just showed us the damage from this storm system. Is there a continued threat?
Yeah, most definitely. And that threat's going to be working its way into the eastern part of the country, but there's a lot of components associated with this storm system. We had those strong winds, of course, had some gusts reported over 80 miles per hour in parts of the Central Plains. We're also dealing with some blizzard-like conditions where we have blizzard warnings in effect through the afternoon and evening for parts of Iowa, Minnesota, down through the Kansas City region as well. Winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories also in place. But our severe weather threat is going to start to work its way into the eastern half of the country. Level 3 enhanced risk for parts of Virginia into North and South Carolina. This is going to be the greatest risk for those damaging winds north of 60 miles per hour, some hail, and even the possibility for some tornadoes. So if you live in this part of the country, definitely have multiple ways of receiving severe weather alerts. The timing of this looks to be around midday into the early afternoon for the Carolinas. You'll notice as we get towards lunchtime and into the evening commute, we're going to be dealing with that strong line of thunderstorms working its way into parts of the D.C. area, up into New York, where we could see some of the commute times starting to slow down big time as a result of the storm system. Bree?
Ramel, thank you very much. Just ahead, what to expect as spring severe weather season heads our way with a trail of tornadoes and strong, dangerous winds.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Starting a business is hard. You have to stay connected at all times.
As we've been growing the studio, Spectrum's been there every step of the way. I'm always able to make the phone call that I need. I'm able to shoot that text message or that email. Every vital piece of equipment that we have here uses Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet, starting at $40 a month, backed by the Spectrum commitment to keep your business connected.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/act now.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your weather on the Ones forecast. All eyes on this potent storm system that's causing all sorts of issues across the lower 48 with some strong winds and blizzard-like conditions on one side. And on the other side, we're dealing with strong winds as well and a severe weather component that has caused all sorts of damaging wind reports, some tornado reports as well across the southeastern portions of the United States. And this line of thunderstorms is going to be bringing impacts to portions of the Carolinas and into the mid-Atlantic states as we head into the afternoon and evening hours today. But again, damaging winds are going to be the main concern with any severe weather as that line continues to progress to the eastern coast. But this area in brown, level 3 enhanced risk for severe weather for eastern North and South Carolina and parts of Virginia as well. So damaging winds north of 60 miles per hour, some hail, and even the possibility for some tornadoes cannot be ruled out. So make sure you have multiple ways of receiving severe weather alerts. If you live in this area, you can download the Spectrum News app for free to get 24/7 weather coverage. And there's also a flooding concern, a marginal flooding concern for that matter, across the northeastern portions of the United States. We're going to see a lot of moisture working its way into areas that have had some snowfall of late. So we're going to get snow melt on top of some rain, which could certainly lead to some flooding concerns in the far northeastern portions of the country. But we also have a winter weather component associated with this as well. Blizzard warnings are in effect from portions of Iowa down through Kansas City. Winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings are going to be in effect all the way through this evening. So this storm has a lot of components associated with it. And the area of low pressure actually set a record low pressure recorded for the month of March in Kansas City. So this storm system is very strong. You'll notice by lunchtime we're dealing with this line through the Virginias down into the Carolinas, and then by the evening commute we're going to be dealing with some of that heavy rain and some gusty winds across the northeastern portions of the country. I-95 is going to be a flat-out mess as we get towards that evening commute. And then the snowfall starts to work its way into the Ohio Valley as we get into the day on Thursday morning. Not expecting a lot of snowfall for parts of Ohio and West Virginia, but the next snowstorm is developing across the Central Plains as we get towards Thursday evening and Friday, and this is likely going to bring down an additional 2 to 3 more inches of snowfall as we reach the end of the day on Friday. So more winter weather and more severe thunderstorms on top of that as well. And then as far as snowfall totals go, we are going to see most of that falling across the Nebraska region, where we could easily see half a foot fall as a result of that second storm system. And then across the Ohio Valley, anywhere between 3 to 5 inches up towards the mountains of the West Virginias as well.
The Trump administration is considering selling numerous federal buildings. Early yesterday, the agency, which oversees the government's real estate, listed 400 buildings for sale, including the headquarters for the FBI, as well as the Departments of Justice and Labor. However, hours later, the administration issued a new list with just over 300 properties. All of the Washington, D.C. based properties were removed. The agency says the sales are in an effort to save money. On the heels of a record-breaking year for tornadoes, the spring severe weather season is already underway. Spectrum meteorologist Nate Harrington shares the outlook for this season and how it could set the tone for severe weather the rest of the year.
2024 was one for the record books when it comes to severe weather. We had the highest tornado count ever, 1,882, and that broke a previous mark set back in 2004. Severe weather outbreaks like the one during the last 2 weeks of May pushed tornado totals for the year to new extremes. Almost 250 tornadoes were reported in just 9 days, from Minnesota in the upper Midwest to Texas in the southern plains, over to the Carolinas and the mid-Atlantic states. This outbreak included an EF4 monster tornado that leveled the town of Greenfield, Iowa. A few different explanations can be given for the uptick in severe storms, the first being the strong El Niño effect that transports lots of moist, unstable air into the southern and central portion of the country. We also had a high number of tornadoes caused by tropical weather, with almost 10% of the total number spawned by tropical cyclones. So the big question is, will this year's severe weather rival what we had in 2024? I think part of that answer will come over the next 3 months during the spring severe weather season. Compared to the summer months of June, July, and August, the spring severe weather season makes up the highest percentage of tornado reports since 1950, with May outpacing all other months. And you've probably heard of the term Tornado Alley. It includes areas from the Gulf Coast, deep south, and up into the upper Midwest, so it covers a lot of territory. Over the past few years, the traditional Tornado Alley in the Midwest, instead of the deep south, has been the target for more tornadoes. And there is some encouraging news about the start of this year's severe weather season. Now, we can't be sure what the hurricane season may have in store for us, but unlike last year, a weak La Niña or even neutral atmospheric conditions are expected this spring, instead of the El Niño, which may have supercharged last spring's severe weather. As long as this trend holds, chances for a repeat of last year's tornado explosion will continue to diminish. No matter what Mother Nature throws our way, being prepared for severe weather before it threatens is key. Having a plan, knowing where to go, and how you'll get life-saving alerts are just a few things to consider as we get into the heart of spring. Now for some positive news from the busiest tornado season ever. We had fewer fatalities than the year before. Despite 500 more tornadoes in 2024, we had 30 fewer fatalities than in 2023. Better preparedness overall, better forecasting, and more lead time during severe weather situations is definitely saving lives. Let's hope that is a trend that does not change as we head into this spring severe weather season. Nate Harrington, Spectrum News.
And we will keep you prepared with your latest weather in our Spectrum News app. You can also get your national and local headlines on the go there. Just download it for free from the App Store and Google Play. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Stay with us.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. And my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Sometimes in life, in order to move forward, it helps to look back. to learn from the pioneers and trailblazers,
to gain inspiration from those who came before us,
to show us what it means to act with empathy and to show that love has no labels.
Join WWE and Love Has No Labels throughout the year in celebrating people from all communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels, that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say. Save it.
It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement. Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault. Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at WeSaySaveIt.org.